So many golfers are so close to their almost perfect swing, but they're missing this one key piece to the downswing. And that was certainly the case for a recent student of mine. I've just taken a group of golfers away to Spain on a coaching trip, phenomenal few days. We run them every year. And this one student was missing just one part of his downswing. And it might be the case for you. So in this video, I'm going to show you what we did. I'm going to show you how we trained it. And then we also needed to make one little adjustment to enable him to actually take it to the course and perform. And I'm going to show you what that was towards the end of the video. So he was really struggling with his irons. We went on the course first day and we walked a few holes of them, and he was just hitting them kind of all over the face, and he was leaking them out to the right. There was no distance, and he felt really kind of out of sorts with his golf swing. And as soon as I watched him hit a few shots, I knew we needed to add this one piece in. So let me kind of demonstrate sort of what he was doing. He had a really good setup to the ball. You know, he stood to the ball quite nicely, and you might be the same. You might look at your golf swing and think, I stand to the ball really nicely. Why am I not hitting the golf shots that I need? And that was certainly the case for this student. Okay, and that one was actually pretty straight, but not a lot of distance, and a little bit off the bottom of the golf club. So what did you see? Well, there was one piece missing, and it was the lateral shift. This golfer didn't have enough movement towards the target. Now, I often hear golfers say things like, isn't this sliding, or you shouldn't slide? Well, let's have a look at some other golfers who might quote unquote slide. We've got Tiger, we've got Adam Scott, and we've got Scotty Scheffler. And what you're going to see here is their setup position versus their impact position with an iron. And you're going to see a massive lateral shift. They're getting through the golf ball, they're getting to their lead side, and that's what I needed to add in. But it's not just a case of thinking to yourself, you know, I've got to move towards the target, because I also had another student fairly recently who was getting through the ball, but they were doing it the wrong way. They were doing it through sort of leaning forward with the upper body. And that was also giving them problems. So we need to get through the ball, we need some lateral shift, but we need to do it in the right way. Let me show you the first drill I want you to do. The first thing I wanted to do with this student in Spain when we did this golf trip was almost break the swing down. So in their mind, there was 3 parts to the swing. Now we all know that when you start the club moving, it's a continuous motion and it's one motion. But for practice, and if you're missing this one piece, thinking about it this way can really help. So I wanted this golfer to basically think about 3 movements. A backswing turn or a backswing movement. Okay, you're all going to have a backswing movement. What I want you to feel, I wanted them to feel, there was a backswing movement, then there was an element of a lateral movement before they had the idea of swinging the golf club through to the target. And just look at where I finish pretty naturally, just because I added in that middle section. So the first thing I want you to do is have some swings where you're feeling like there's 3 different parts of the golf swing. And notice how I did that with a little step, which is really, really key. I've got my feet together. I feel like I make a backswing move. Now the key thing here is look what my shoulders do. As I make the lateral shift, my shoulders don't do a lot. They follow my kind of lead of the lower body. What they don't do is start to rotate back towards the target, because that's the rotational move which can stop the lateral move. So it's going to look like this. You go back swing, lateral, through swing. So this is your first little exercise. 1, 2, 3. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Now this instantly helped their golf swing, because without that lateral shift, they were making a movement which was sending the club very much toward the outside of the ball. And that's why so many of their strikes were coming off the inside. They were hitting them right towards the heel, and they almost hit a couple of, well, we won't say it, but you know what I'm talking about, right off the inside that shot off to the right. And they couldn't understand why they were hitting those shots, but it was because they were missing out on that section. So watch what happens as I add that lateral. It gives me time to allow the club to drop. Okay, so important. Having that lateral shift allows the club to drop into the slot. Without that lateral shift, you're always going to be coming over the top, you're almost going to be swinging out to in, you're always going to be struggling with strikes. So the first little exercise was that, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't go ahead and do that with a ball. So 1, 2, 3, let's just keep it really smooth, really slow. That ball's gone no more than about 50 yards, but you can see those different elements. So you can see I've got an alignment stick kind of through my belt loops. That's really, really important. And I've got another alignment stick into the ground. Now, you could just use a golf bag. You know, I could take my golf bag and sort of place it here. But I just want to show you kind of how I've set this up, because it's quite important. When I take my address to this golf ball, I've got a 7-iron in my hands here. Notice how there's a gap between the end of this alignment stick and the one that's in the ground. It's probably about the width of my lead hand. Now, when we were in Spain, what I wanted this golfer to do was basically in the downswing, get this end of the alignment stick in front of the other alignment stick. So they're, closing that gap. That's that kind of lateral shift. But this is where so many golfers get this move wrong, because they don't also consider the level of the hips. So what I see all too often is when a golfer potentially tries to have this lateral movement, or they do have a kind of sliding move, I'll see something like this. I'll see a backswing, and then I'll see an attempt to simply just push that alignment stick forwards. And what you can see is that I've made what feels like to me the most extreme movement I can make. And yes, I've maybe got this alignment stick on top of that one, but it had a big effect on pushing my upper body backwards. Just watch that again. I'll just show you that. It forces this lead shoulder up. It forces this shoulder down. It forces my head back. And where's my weight? It's more on this leg. So even though I tried to have this big lateral shift in my lower body, it actually caused my weight to go back. This is what I actually want you to do, and this is the key move to get this lateral shift, so it actually helps your golf game rather than kind of hinders it. You're going to make your backswing. You're going to take this end of the alignment stick and move it in front of this end, but keeping this lower than this. Okay, that's the key move. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, now you can see how I've got this end in line, but my hips are probably fairly level. You'll be able to probably tell me better than I can. But what that's done is it's meant I've got some of this lateral shift, but my pressures are going down into my lead side. That's the key part. And as I'm doing that, that's allowing me to get that club into that perfect delivery position, that kind of slot, or that ideal position that we see all these golfers in. If I again show you the poor move, we go backswing, we add in the rotation, the club comes over the top, we don't close that gap. That's what this player was missing, and that's what you could be missing in your golf swing. We've showed those great players before, they all make this lateral move, and it's really key because we need that club to land target side of the ball. We need the lowest part of your swing to be target side of the ball and underground. We can't do that unless we have some of this lateral movement. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a couple of rehearsals. I'm going to go back, I've got my shift, and then I've got my turn. And obviously I'm going to click that stick, and that tells me that I had that lateral shift. Those two drills are going to give you everything you need to get your backswing, your downswing, and your follow through all perfectly synced. So what was this one thing that we did with this student on the course to basically make sure that they could do it? Well, think about what we've said, those three movements, that lateral shift. You've got to give yourself time to do that. You've got to give yourself the ability to do that. Rhythm is so key. And what I saw with this golfer on the golf course was that their practice swings and their golf swing in general had too much tension through their hands, through their forearms, through their elbows, through their shoulders. And what I noticed when we went on the course the first day is that their practice swings were very deliberate and very stiff with the arms and the body. And when they took that to a golf shot, there was a lot of tension through the hands and arms, there was a lot of focus on the club head, and it didn't give them a lot of time or the rhythm that they needed to get the weight forward. Okay, look at when we do the right swing. It's very rhythmical. We're feeling and we're sensing those three different parts of the golf swing. If you don't have the flow, if you don't have the softness in your hands and arms, it's going to be very difficult to do that. So the one key that we gave this player was to make sure that their practice swings, their grip was incredibly light. We wanted them to really feel and sense the weight of the club, which is down here. You can really feel that if you grip it lightly. And I wanted them to make some swings where their focus was on the club head swinging a bit more freely around their body. And straight away, I feel like I've got the time, I feel like I've got the rhythm that I need in order for me to get my weight through. It feels much easier when that club is flowing around my body. You contrast that with something which is very stiff, and it feels much harder to get my weight through. Okay, so think about that when you're on the golf course. You should have some freedom in your swing. You should be able to feel the weight of the club throughout the motion. And that starts with your practice swings. Okay, so often I see practice swings which are far too stiff, too deliberate, not enough flow, not enough rhythm. And if we hadn't have changed that, all the ideas that this golfer had on the range would have been great, but they wouldn't have been able to take it to the course.